going to look at constitutional law in Uganda. Constitutional law in Uganda. So it is important for us to understand that there are various sources of law in Uganda, and the major source of law is what we call the constitution. I will not go into the historical part of it. I will rather go to the constitution. But briefly, Uganda has so far had around 4 constitutions. The first one was that of 1962, which was also known as the Independence Constitution, which was later overthrown by Obote, and he replaced it with what we call the Pigeonhole Constitution of 1966, which later turned into what we called the 1967 Republican Constitution, the constitution that declared Uganda a republic, and later it was overthrown, or it was removed by Idi Amin Dada, who ruled by decree, not by law, hence overthrowing it. And later, during the NRM government, upon coming to power in 1986, we see in the year 1995 coming up with what we call the 1995 Constitution, which is also referred to as the hybrid constitution of Uganda. So briefly, we have had those constitutions in Uganda, and now we are going to look at constitutional law. So like I've told you, constitution is the supreme law of the land. You have to know it by virtue of Article 2, Sub-Article 1 of Uganda's constitution, that the constitution is the supreme law of the land, and Article 2, Sub-Article 2, or Clause 2 of the constitution, whichever law against it or custom is null and void for inconsistency. So that is the principle of supremacy of the constitution. Then we have to know that this constitution, yes, we have the constitution. We should know the types of constitution, or the classification of constitutions that we have in the world. So the constitutions are classified into around 3 to 4 categories. The first one, we have what we call the Republican Constitution versus the Monarchical Constitution. A Republican Constitution, this is a constitution where the parties or the members of the country will appoint their president. So it is a Republican Constitution because they have the power to appoint the president that will govern them. And this is seen in our Article 59 of the Constitution, which gives Ugandans the power to vote. So that is the first classification, a Republican Constitution. This is where the parties or the people will vote for their president. Then a Monarchical Constitution. This is a constitution where the parties or the people in the country don't have the power to vote on who will govern them. However, that so-called person ascends to power because he forms part, or he falls within the lineage of the people that are meant to lead. A case in point is the United Kingdom, and it has been witnessed just I think in 2023. We have seen when the Queen died, all that was clearly seen to show that this so-called King of England or UK has just ascended to power. So they have what we call a monarchical constitution. Then the other constitution that we know, or that exists, is what we call a unitary constitution versus a federal constitution. What is a unitary constitution? So realize that there are certain states such as USA, United States of America. It has got various states within it. For example, the state of California, the state of what? There are very many states. So what they do as USA, United States of America, as a whole, it has what we call a unitary constitution. So this is a constitution upon which all other constitutions derive its power, or their power, from. So the other states, they have what we call federal constitutions. So the federal constitutions, these are constitutions that govern various states, but they should not be inconsistent with the unitary constitution. So USA as a whole, it has what we call a unitary constitution. Then, because it has got various federal states, the various federal states have got what we call federal constitutions. Now, these federal constitutions only govern federal states. So, all the federal constitutions derive their authority or power from the unitary constitutions. Then the other constitution that we have to know, we have what we call a unitary constitution. I mean a written and unwritten constitution. The question is, what is a written constitution and what is unwritten constitution? So a written constitution, as you hear, this is a constitution that is in writing. Like Uganda, we have a written constitution. Why? Because you can pick a copy and say this is the constitution. But the unwritten constitution, this is a constitution which is not in writing. However, the people know it of head through customs, among others. And the case in point is the Republic of Northern Ireland. These people have unwritten constitutions. It is not in place, or it can be written, but in small portions or segments. So that's the unwritten constitution, where you cannot say that is one document, but they can be various documents which contain the various laws that the people know or that should know. Then lastly, we have what we call a this constitution that can be amended. Actually, they call it the flexible and the rigid constitution. So the flexible constitution, this is a constitution that is subject to amendment, meaning that they can amend it with ease, without difficulties in amendment. You realize that our chapter 18 of the constitution basically talks about amendment of the constitution. So any constitution that can be amended means changing, that can be changed, or they can make some changes within it, is also known as a flexible constitution. While a unflexible constitution, or which you can call the rigid constitution, this is a constitution that cannot be amended with ease. Amending it is a problem. So you realize that some countries have constitutions that cannot be amended. So that is what we call a rigid constitution. So briefly, that is the types of constitutions and the introduction to constitution. So you should know the characteristics of a constitution. One, it is a supreme law. Two, any law that is against it is null and void. Three, it is subject to amendment, among others. Four, it respects, or it must be this one that will respect human rights. All those are some of the characteristics of the constitution in Uganda. Thank you very much.